Good morning everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with your daily update for Bitcoin and XRP. Jack Frost has already done Ethereum and Solana for you. Bitcoin still remains within this consolidation. All last week and the week before I was expecting most likely downward movement to find support about 60,700 or maybe about 58,200. A couple of days ago that is exactly what happened, and the session for the 24th of June finished with a long bullish long lower wick. The 25th of June has now completed with a bullish reversal pattern. This is a piercing pattern. The close of this candlestick is just slightly more than halfway through the body of this candlestick, so that's the minimum requirement for a piercing pattern that meets that definition. It's not the strongest bullish reversal pattern, but it is a bullish reversal pattern. It comes in the context for the short term of a downward trend. ADX does indicate a downward trend, so I will count this as bullish. It tells us that this downward swing, which has found support on the 24th of June, about 58,200, slightly above, is most likely, not definite, but most likely to be over. I did mention the warning yesterday that rectangles commonly have false breakouts. Previously, within the rectangle, the first area of support was expected about 60,700. On the 1st of May, price closed well below that, looked like a downward breakout, but price very quickly returned back within the rectangle, so I extended the zone of support down to 58,200. This was a false breakout, and now the lower edge support is a little bit lower, and that's where we found support on the 24th. That could happen again. We could have another close above 58,200, and we'll have to see if price moves away or reverts back to within the rectangle. So just be aware, we could yet see another low before this is done. Because rectangles commonly have false breakouts, I'm going to apply a 3-day away rule. I want to see a break below support at 58,200 with a close below that area, or a close above resistance would be an upward breakout above 73,100 on an upward session with push from volume. So a break in either direction and then 2 or 3 days away so that we can filter out potential false breakouts. Once we have that, then we have a breakout of this big consolidation, and we can have confidence that the next trend, whether it be up or down, is then underway. Balance of probability says an upward breakout is still more likely because 2/3 of rectangles that occur after an upward trend will have an upward breakout. Only 1/3 of them will break out downward. 24th of June, that strong downward session ended with an increase in range and some increase in volume. That's actually pretty common when downward movements end for them to be with strong volume. It happened here, it happened here, didn't happen here, happened again here, and it may have happened again here. So it doesn't always happen, but it will happen more often than not. The piercing pattern does not have support from volume compared to the previous downward session, but I do notice that for cryptocurrencies, when they do have bullish reversal patterns at lows, they don't always have push from volume. That's because for cryptocurrencies, their impulses will start out with slow and weak movement. They don't start to gather momentum and strength until they get close to the middle, and then they explode at the end. So it's pretty common to not see bullish reversal patterns, and when you do, pretty common to not see support from volume for them. So for a cryptocurrency, this is not a deal breaker. There was, however, the very strong, technically significant bearish signal from on-balance volume. And if you want to have a bearish outlook for Bitcoin, this is the strongest technical support you can have for that outlook. It may suggest we could still yet get a downward breakout from that rectangle, but remember, let's filter out those false breakouts by looking for a 2 or 3 day away rule to follow a breakout before we can have confidence it's not false. However, the bearish signal did occur several days before that strong downward session of 24th of June, and so it may have only been a warning that downward movement for price was going to continue to support, and on-balance volume has continued lower. So The bearish result of the signal may have already played out. It might not be indicating a downward breakout from the rectangle. If the bearish signal had occurred when price was much closer to support, I would read it as indicating a downward breakout from the rectangle. But because it occurred when price was pretty much in the middle of the consolidation, I think price was too far away from support for that to be an indication of a downward breakout from the rectangle. We just want to see a little bit more upward movement away from support before I really have confidence we're not going to see a downward breakout from the rectangle. But just be aware, this is quite bearish. Look out for potentially a downward breakout. ADX indicates there's a downward trend for the short term. It has indicated trends within this rectangle, downward here, upward here, and now downward. If the low has been found, ADX is going to take a while to catch up. It's a lagging indicator based on a 14-day average. But if you want to take this at face value today, it's telling us to expect more downward movement, and on-balance volume is telling us to expect potentially a downward breakout from the rectangle. Be aware that could happen still. But RSI reached oversold on the 24th of June. When Bitcoin is in a bear market, RSI can reach oversold, price can bounce, price can then continue on to make lower lows, RSI can reach more deeply oversold, and then it can exhibit bullish divergence before a bear market comes to an end. But for the bigger picture at the weekly and monthly time frame, Bitcoin is in a bull market, particularly at the weekly time frame. If this big rectangle consolidation is a consolidation within an ongoing bull market, then RSI reaching oversold at the end of this movement would suggest that that downward movement is complete, because when RSI reaches oversold during pullbacks and consolidations within a bull market, that does tend to be associated with the end of the pullback or consolidation. So this is quite bullish if my bigger picture analysis is correct. Money flow is moving lower, it's not oversold, it doesn't tend to get oversold very often. ATR overall declining as price moves sideways. I keep saying that within this rectangle there's not strength and downward movement. It doesn't look like a bearish movement, it looks weak and sideways. That's typical of a sideways consolidation within an ongoing bull market. The Elliott Wave count for XRP remains the same. Yesterday was a little inside session. Today, so far, ever so slightly moving lower. There's just nothing new to add to this wave count. If price remains above 0.4565, this wave count will remain valid. However, if we do see a new low by any amount at any time frame below 0.4565, the main wave count will be invalidated, and this less likely alternate will then become the main wave count. It is less likely because the structure here of intermediate 2 to continue lower is a triple zigzag. Triple zigzags aren't rare, but they're not really very common either. That reduces the probability in Elliott Wave terms of this wave count, but it is a valid wave count. If intermediate 2 does continue lower, it may not move beyond the start of 1 below 0.2794. The daily technical pitch for XRP sees an ascending triangle here. There was a downward breakout. I calculated the target at 0.4227, but I did say that there was strong support at 0.46, which needed to be breached first in order for confidence in this target. That hasn't happened yet, and price has got some bullish long lower wicks around support at 0.426. So price broke below the lower edge of the ascending triangle, back test of resistance, moving down and away, but it's unable to break below support at 0.46, and this bullish wick for the 24th of June suggests it may not be able to do so. So look for an upward movement now, and still strong resistance about 55 cents. XRP has been unable to break above that. It did here, but it quickly returned back below. So again, because there was this false break above resistance here, I'm going to apply a 2 or 3 day away rule. I want to see price close above 55 cents and then move up and away for 2 or 3 days. 2 days if it's strong, 3 days if it's weak. That's why I say 2 or 3. It depends on the strength. 2 or 3 days away above this before I really have confidence that this area has finally been broken. For the very short term, volume is strongest on downward sessions still for XRP. The short term volume profile is bearish, but for the mid-term, strongest volume on previous upward sessions within the last bullish one. Overall, for the bigger picture, the volume profile is bullish. XRP broke below some reasonable technical support a couple of days ago, coming up to test resistance today. This may assist for the very short term to halt a rise in price. This purple line here may provide resistance for on-balance volume, which may mean price may not be able to move much higher for the short term. If on-balance volume moves above this line for the next session, then that line would have reduced technical significance and I'd probably remove it or redraw it. ADX is increasing again, telling us there's a downward trend for XRP. RSI reached oversold on the 13th of April. That suggests that low may remain intact. RSI is now neutral. There's still a ways to go before it reaches close to or again reaches into oversold, while ADX tells us there's a downward trend. Money flow is neutral, a ways to go before that reaches oversold. From the 6th of June onward, ATR is now showing some increase. Prices mostly really moving sideways. Within this sideways movement, it started out with a bit of downward movement, and now there's some very choppy, overlapping, slightly higher movement. ATR starting to show an increase, tells us volatility may be returning to the market. The last low may remain intact, but because price is so choppy with so many whipsaws, I'm just going to leave this neutral. This is ridiculously difficult to interpret at this time. I expect the last low for XRP is most likely to remain intact, but we need to see resistance about 55 cents comfortably and confidently broken with upward movement above it before I have real confidence XRP is on the next upward leg. That's it from me, and I hope you're all looking forward to a lovely day.